So anyways, pretty much all animals are more closely related to us than insects. Penguins are a good example. They walk to the center of Antarctica, across miles and miles of desert, tundra. There's no life. There's no drinkable water. The male and the female walk to the center of Antarctica to breed. And once the egg is hatched, the female leaves for the coldest months of winter to return to the sea. Because of the birthing process, she's used a lot of energy. And if she doesn't return to the sea to feed before the harsh winter strikes, she's in a lot of trouble. While she's traveling to regain strength, the male stays at the breeding grounds, and he holds the eggs on his feet. And he folds his fatty belly over the egg. Now, before the female penguin leaves, they practice trading this egg off. They hand them back and forth between their feet. And penguins don't have hands, so this is quite a challenge of coordination. And it also requires quite a bonding and cooperation between the male and female to be able to hand this egg back and forth. And it's incredibly important to keep this egg on one's feet, because if it sits on the frigid tundra of Antarctica for even 10 or 15 seconds, it can mean the death of the child within the egg. And beyond that, if the egg falls off one's feet, it's quite difficult to retrieve it and get it back on one's feet. They can try and use the beak, but especially once the male is alone and the female has gone to return to the sea to regain sustenance, the male is pretty much alone in his care for the young. Male and female penguins generally bond for life, and this is probably because of the intense cooperation and trust that they have to have between them. The male protects the egg through the harsh winter, and the males group together in a pack to break the harsh winds that cross the Antarctic plains. And through this act, as a community, the males work together to protect each other. Male penguins go a matter of months without any food. Meanwhile, the females are in the ocean. They're building up sustenance, and they need to not only replenish their strength, but they need to gather food for their expected young. And once the harsh winter passes in the spring, the females return, and if they don't return, the offspring again is in trouble, because they require food, and the father, while able to provide a little bit of food once they're hatched, is not able, his strength is diminished quite a bit, and he is basically waiting, relying on his wife, his mate, to return with a full belly so that she can feed the young. It's an admirable relationship, more so than a lot of other species, and I guess my main point was that I would hope we could apply and gain more understanding from bonobos, these songbirds that I mentioned, and penguins, all of which are more closely related to us than insects, and all of which have varying degrees of us versus them, family versus foreigner, more so than insect hives, which often have, you've heard the term hive mind. That certainly relates, that they function as a single unit, and a colony essentially is a single entity. Any one part of that colony cannot survive alone, and their only enemies, other than external threats to the colony from other species, predators, are other colonies, which have a separate queen, potentially with a completely separate genetic structure. And really it all comes down to competition. When it comes to insect colonies, there's basically zero competition within the colony. The only exception could be seen that some of the females can breed. They normally serve as workers within the hive, but some of these breeding females can leave to start new colonies, and this is a way to propagate your genetics outside the limits of your hive. But if one of these females becomes pregnant within the colony, they will be killed by the queen or other members of the colony. And I think that's our problem here. And even within my own country, if we could unite as us versus the world, we might at least have cohesion. We might be able to act more like a single entity. I don't think that's the best, though, because that's still us versus them. We still are set in this mentality of differences throughout the world, and those outside of our borders are foreigners and our enemies. And I think it would be much more healthy if we could learn to look at the world, this earth, as a single colony. We need to do that. We need to see that the whole globe is our family. The human race and the other creatures on it are all connected. We are one hive. And if we ever want to survive, we've got to stop all this infighting. We've got to find a way to first coexist peacefully so that we can all prosper and help each other, and then expand. We've got to take that breeding female, and by that I mean a group of people, a group of genetically mixed people, so that we don't have to worry about inbreeding and the problems that causes. And we've got to fly off to a place where we can start a new colony. Otherwise, we got all our eggs in one basket. Kind of off subject, but I hope I gave you some food for thought. Would be interesting to see what you think about all that. Thanks. I'm going to edit this down.